2020. Josh, I have everyone but
Test 1, 2.
I have everybody but Bloomfield and John and Thompson. I don't see Thompson.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Thank you. Well, we have a quorum. We can go ahead and call the meeting to order for Thursday, August 6th, 2020. Nice to virtually see everyone again. And welcome to those who are watching the stream online. First order of business, item 2 on the agenda is approval of minutes for June 16th, 2020 and July 2nd, 2020, and would entertain a motion for approval of those minutes together. Motion from Member Smith, second from Member Johnston. Any corrections or additions to the minutes for either set? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Morlock, if you would please give us a roll call vote to approve both of these minutes together.
Sure. Member Beard.
Yes.
Member Johnston.
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
Member Friedrich.
Yes.
And Chairman Barnett, will you be voting?
Sure, I'll go ahead and vote, and yes for me as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 3 on the agenda, under appearance by members of the public, we have a delegation from the McLean County Museum of History, and we are thrilled to have both of you with us. I'd like to welcome to the meeting Interim Executive Director Greg Coos and Incoming Executive Director for the McLean County Museum of History, Julie Emig. So welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. It is always a pleasure to, in whatever format we can, to be able to meet with folks who have taken on responsibilities of managing this rather complex organization and entity of McLean County. Thank you for what you do. I know that you put in a lot of long hours and you hear lots of different things from lots of different people about the kind of job you do. So just for me personally and from the museum, we certainly appreciate what it is that you're doing. I'm going to do a rundown on the project the Museum of History is involved in. Do some, if you have any questions on that, do those. Then Julie Emig will do a presentation about the museum in time of COVID and what is going on. And then I'm going to like to get back to then a point that I would like to make, a very specific recent discovery that the museum has made that involves your work. But essentially, as you know, the Museum of History has been for a number of years, actually starting in 2014, working on a project twofold project to construct new restrooms for the Museum of History and for the Visitor Center. The current restrooms date to 2 periods. One is 1957, the other one is 1976 or 1977. There's not been a tremendous amount of upgrading or change of those facilities from those periods of time. And then the second piece that we're working with is a project to restore the historic lighting in the courthouse building. We have discovered missing light fixtures. We have light fixtures in place. We have identified a total of 189 light fixtures that have survived from the period of 1903, of which about half are in place. And what that project is to as an ongoing mission that the museum has, that it shares with the county, is how can we go about the preservation and the restoration of what's not arguably the finest building in McLean County, but also which is clearly a building that is a symbol for our entire county. It's a symbol for all of us, and taking care of it, the museum is very committed to the good care of it, and we appreciate the partnership the county has taken on with its part of it. The museum received a $258,000 grant from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources Public Museum Grant Fund. to help underwrite a project that was first awarded in 2014, and was finally funded in 2019. Lots have happened in that period, 5-year period of time, including change in pricing and a better understanding of what's going on. For this project, we developed biddable specifications, announced bids in June and July, public bidding, and we received 3 qualified bids: Catalyst Construction, Perry Coon Construction, and J. Spencer Construction were the 3 bidders on this project. J. Spencer Construction of Normal was the low bidder. They bid for this project $661,513. Their principal subcontractors are Emmett Sharif Electric Company and Pipeworks Plumbing. So we have a project that is a successful bidder as local contractors, with subs as also local contractors. The Museum Executive Committee discussed these bids and discussed whether to engage in the complete project or simply take one piece of the project that represented what had been granted by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. And in a very healthy discussion, they came to the conclusion that we would do the entire project. That is, we would do the restrooms and we would do the historic lighting. They felt that it was extremely important to continue in our work to improve that facility. Including the architectural and engineering services, the total project cost is expected to be about $700,000. Considering the $258,000 grant, the museum share of this project will be $442,000. So we are stepping up to the plate in I think, a pretty important and a significant way in order to see this project move forward. We are committed to the preservation of the facility, and we want to just simply point out that we are holding up our end of the relationship that we have with the County of McLean. The work itself will start on September 8th, and we anticipate substantial completion of the project by the 2nd week of December, with a punch list completion planned for about December 20. This is a long project, and the project length is highly influenced on the COVID-19 pandemic that we're all working under. J. Spencer Construction has done quite a bit of development of precautionary measures so that the work can proceed without endangering through disease the workforce that's going to be involved in this project. For instance, work crews will be limited in the number of trades there at any particular point in time, and those work crews will be limited to a smaller number of people. We are also, for instance, they are also involving installing air scrubbers that will be used to treat the 2 principal rooms that are part of this project area, so that we can get clean air for the people who are working on this project. Because of these precautions, this project is likely taking longer than it would without those kinds of precautionary measures. But we're very pleased that they are doing this, and they are taking this very responsibly. We are very, very impressed with J. Spencer Construction. Brock Spencer is a delight to work with, and very, very happy with that, that he got it. In terms of the public impact, because of this construction and because it deals with the restrooms, a principal public facility of any public building, the museum will remain closed to the public during this construction process. And so we will be able to reopen to the public, depending upon what's going on statewide and nationally for the pandemic, with new facilities, public facilities, restrooms, much nicer, and also a much improved appearance of the public hallways, and in particular, the Governor Pfeiffer courtroom, which has these magnificent bronze chandeliers that are going to be brought back to a marvelous condition. It's going to have not only a beautiful appearance, but also many of these fixtures were simply non-functioning, and gives functionality back to that light system. So that's kind of a rundown of what it is that we're doing with those projects. Does anybody have any questions, any concerns?
I do have a question, Mr. Coos. The light fixtures themselves, I'm assuming where they can, they're keeping the original fixture and retrofitting it with new wiring and things like that to preserve those, or?
Yeah, the original fixtures are being preserved. We are going to be refinishing them to a original antique Verita finish. About half the fixtures have been, the original finish had been removed in the 1980s. The ones that have been storage underneath the steps, the east steps actually, in the porch, it's like jamming them underneath your front porch. That's where they were. There was damage done to many of them as a result of that kind of storage. Also, the finish that's left, we realize has been negatively impacted by essentially 80 years of cigar smoking and coal-fired furnace heating that really affected that bronze finish. And it turned them a shade of green that was probably similar to the shade of green of some of those cigar smokers' lungs. I don't know. But in any case, we'll be working on it on that basis.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, please continue.
Okay, Julia. The museum's really pleased that Julie Emick has come on board as our new executive director.
Thank you, Greg.
Julia?
Yep. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for taking the time, and from one public servant to others, thank you for your service. Greg's talked a lot about the beautiful artifice, the physical structure of the museum, and I just want to share a little bit about how the vibrancy of the work, the programming that the museum focuses on, how that's continuing to go forward in spite of the reconstruction and in spite of COVID-19. One of the goals that museum staff has in their sights is to continue the cemetery walk. How many of you have done the cemetery walk in actual physical time? Some of you have. So it's a very popular program. There is no way the museum staff is not going to do this again. So they have been working to develop an online platform with a company called Teachable, and that people will be able to access the program online between October 3rd and November 2nd. Dates are still somewhat approximate. And then we'll be able to make additional DVD copies available. Actors have already been hired. That's something that the museum really believes strongly in, that we can provide some payment to actors in these times. And the characters have been selected, and that program will definitely be rolling out. I've also learned from our local archivist and historian, George and Bill, respectively, that they have never been busier with requests for researching human history. So many people are at home now, so they're looking through their files and drawers. They've also gotten more donations than usual. And people are interested in conducting genealogy research or historical research. And I didn't know until recently, for example, that there was once a Bloomington baseball team called the Bloomers circa 1910. I think that name really should come back. So I'm hoping that, it'll catch fire. We also had a very successful Futures in History Camp 2.0 that was open to students entering 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. They were able to explore law, archaeology, architecture, museum studies, and environmental science, just to name a few. And they were immersed in a 5-day camp experience, really predicting their futures by creating it. And it was very successful and well received. I know families locally were glad to have some excellent online educational programming as an option for their children. We are also beginning to plan the virtual version of part 3 of our series, A Community in Conversation, Who Has the Power to Be Heard? And this is done in collaboration with Not in Our Town, the YWCA, and the League of Women Voters. And this particular event will most likely take place on September 29th, and the focus will be women in politics. And we have also started conversations with local groups to host a virtual program that will feature migration stories to McLean County around the concept of breaking bread. And all of this wonderful work was made possible by a very successful capital campaign. And we were able to build this platform to allow for this kind of digital programming for the community. So we are very much involved and invested in offering our services as we navigate these times. Does anyone have any questions for me about any of the events that I mentioned?
Anyone?
Anyone?
Vice Chair Beard.
Well, I think as one of your constituents, and also as a member of the board and resident of Bloomington, congratulations on the role. And we're really excited to see, as Mr. Coos said, the McLean County, the courthouse, the museum is just such a great part of our town. And I'm excited to see, hearing all the programs that and the work that you're doing. Really excited to see what the next chapter for the museum is. So congratulations, and I'm looking forward to continued work. Thank you.
Another question I have for all of you is just, I'd like to continue providing regular updates to this committee about the museum, not just the remodeling project and how it's progressing, but also just to continue to provide information about the programming that we're doing. If there are any other pieces of information that would be useful for you to hear from the History Museum, I'm very interested in knowing that, and will plan my presentations according to what it is you would like to learn about.
That would be wonderful to be able to have a reoccurring dialogue with you and the rest of the museum, and if members do have things they'd like to learn more about, maybe before you come next time, a few weeks before, we could get an email out to the committee and see if there's anything in particular they'd like to hear about, and sort of give that to you so that you can prepare for the meeting.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Member Johnston.
Thank you. I know that when we first started discussing the bathrooms, and part of the discussion had centered around looking at redoing some of the heating, particularly in the winter, it gets quite cold. Is that still part of the bathroom revamp project, or is that something that's been pushed for later, especially as we'll be entering winter soon?
What we have done, we think it will be most effective, we have had Prairie Woodworks build a new interior door. That's a see-through door. It's a heavy door that will essentially create an airlock in the immediate vestibule area. And we feel that airlock will block essentially in the winter as people come and go, the door opening, nothing blocking clear flow of air. And so our anticipation is that is going to have a major impact. We have also installed heating underneath the carpets. It's a kind of a subfloor heating thing that was recommended to us by Sweeney Carpets. And that creates at least a decent level of heat for people who are volunteering as receptionists and for the staff who are assigned to that position.
Any other questions from the committee? Okay, all right, Mr. Coos, I'll turn it back over to you to continue.
Okay, this was a rather late breaking bit of information, and I had hoped to share it on paper, but we just literally got the information. The museum hired Hermes Sales and Service to conduct an in-depth survey and analysis of the 11 data air heating and ventilating units that are in the building. These units were specifically specified for the building in 1991. They were installed as, this kind of unit was installed when we opened the building in 1991. In 2004 or 6, The museum replaced them all from a grant from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. We have been engaging in a more sophisticated digital survey system where we can monitor the conditions of the rooms that hold the 20,000 artifacts and 1,700 linear feet of historic papers that the museum maintains, as well as its exhibition galleries. So this goes to the core of how it is that we go about preserving these things of the past for future generations. We found that we are not hitting close to where we need to hit in terms of levels of humidity and levels of temperature. There's been a lot of fluctuation, and we're not really confident that we know exactly why that was taking place. So we asked Hermes to do a survey of this equipment to, first of all, to find out, is the equipment functioning the way it should function? And what Hermes did in their report, which I just got yesterday, we have 11 units of these data air units. Now, just to give you an idea, when we purchased these units in about 2004, 2006, that was about a $240,000 expense to buy these things. Of those 11 units, 10 of them have issues mechanically. So essentially only one of them was reported as not having a problem. The chillers that serve them, 2 of the chillers are non-functioning. Now, the point of this survey was not to cast aspersion at anybody. The point of the survey was for us to get a handle on why were we having these issues. And what we've learned here is that and we don't feel particularly, how do I say, singled out as a part of the county, or we don't feel our buildings being particularly singled out or particularly ignored. I think it points to a challenge that the county as a whole has with delayed maintenance issues. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is I would really strongly encourage you to conduct similar surveys as part of your capital project, your capital, and not only conduct such surveys, but then also fund the needed repair and and bringing your equipment back up into the category of running in excellent condition, and get it done, whether you buy private contractors if you have to, but get it done so that the people who you rely on of keeping your systems functioning aren't going to go to work every morning with this knowledge in their head that they're already behind. To give these people who are working so hard for you an opportunity where they can be in a situation where they are actually under control of keeping your systems functioning. The fact that we've got 10 out of 11 units non-functioning is a result of those people who are responsible for doing this simply not having the resources necessary for them to do their jobs properly. And so I beg of you, as you consider your capital plan, that you include in that capital plan getting on top of your delayed maintenance and making a commitment to getting on top of that delayed maintenance. It will make a tremendous impact on the ability of the people you pay and you rely on to properly do their work.
Well, I very much appreciate you sharing those words. I think as I've said at previous committee meetings and in meetings with staff, that I am tired of us from a facility standpoint being in a reactive mode instead of a proactive mode. And I know Administrator Rodriguez and Mr. Steffet, Mr. Doherty also share that as well. So as we move through the 2021 budget process and we begin to talk about the capital improvement plan, which we're going to discuss later on in the meeting a little bit, I think that has done a good job of teeing us up and helping to remind us of why these things are so important, whether it's the system at the museum or the sludge pit at Kamlara Park or roofs that need to be maintained. We cannot continue to kick the can down the road on any number of these maintenance issues. So really appreciate you bringing that up and making a point to say that.
Thank you for your time on this. The museum has taken on the cost of doing this survey. It's costing us $3,600 to get this information to you. They will be providing a cost estimate of what it will cost to bring these machines back into service at the level they were designed, and I'll certainly be sharing that with you for your planning.
Thank you very much. Any questions at all from the committee before we move on to the next item? Okay, well, again, thank you both so much for coming. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us today and to share what's been going on at the museum, both in physical projects that are happening as well as the programmatic activities that you do that are so important to the county and our communities. So thank you both so much for your time.
Thank you for giving us this time.
All right, next item on the agenda, departmental matters. Mr. Steffa, are you with us today?
I am.
Okay, I will turn it over to you for the Parks and Recreation report.
Okay. Right off the bat, I want to say my phone is on its last gasp. So if something happens, I'll try to get back to you ASAP. I've got a new phone ordered, but this one's not doing too hot. But anyway, good afternoon, all. I bring before you a year-to-date report for the different entities that we have out at the park. If you have seen the numbers, I'm quite shocked by the numbers, to be perfectly honest with you, especially being closed April and May. I'm happy. I'm very happy with the numbers, but I'm shocked. I knew we were busy, but I didn't know we were that busy. So in the past, Mr. Wasson and myself have always done these year-to-date updates by numbers. You can see, for example, camping nights, we do by it's site nights instead of total revenue, because they can be skewed a little bit because fees going up in the past. So that's why you see the numbers instead of dollars. But Cassie Taylor had requested some to do some financial figures, so I would be happy to share those if you would like with the campground. You guys just tell me if you would like me to present that. I don't know if you got that email from Cassie or not, but like I said, I'd be more than happy to give you some dollar amounts.
All right, any questions at all from the committee on the usage report that's in front of us? Member Johnson?
I just had a quick question. Is this comparing like July 27th, 2020 to July 27th, 2019? Or are we comparing July 27th to all of 2019?
No, it's the same date.
Okay.
From all the past years.
Okay. And then the income that we've gotten for the pontoon boat, that's pretty close to having paid for it, correct?
Well, I ran some numbers right before I came to the meeting, and believe it or not, we are right at $22,000 for the pontoon. So it's more than paid off for itself,
All right.
and we're now in the black. So
Excellent.
I did request another one for next year in the budget. We are getting, we are turning a lot of people down. Like I said, the thing that surprised me the most is how much usage we are getting during the week, and that's the same thing with everything. All the boat rentals, the bait shop, the campground. I mean, everything's just been extremely busy during the week as well. So, which is a good thing. We like to be busy. But yeah, the pontoon is brought in right at $22,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the committee? Member Friedrich?
Yeah, Mike, have you had any problems or anything out there with so many people? What's been the negative? I love all the positives. Any concerns that you're having out there?
Not really. Well, I guess we could probably stand to purchase a few more maybe kayaks, and we did purchase, I can't remember if I told the committee last month, we did purchase a few of the stand-up paddle boards. We could probably stand to purchase a few more of those, and I can look at our special activities fund for that. Other than that, just usually once a year in the campground, we have a week where all the GFIs, or not all of them, but a bunch of GFIs decide they're going to go bad on us. And that week was last week. We changed, I think, close to a dozen GFIs, and don't ask me why they pile up like that at the same time, but last week was the week. Other than that, we have 5 of us trained on how to change GFIs, so usually that's not a problem. But really, I mean, really, that's, if there's anything negative, other than next week, we're going to go into where we're losing our summer staff. We're actually, tomorrow there is quite a few of our summer staff's last day, so things will get a little strained here, but we're used to it. We work through it, so we'll be good.
Any other questions from the committee? All right. Well, Mr. Steffa, a very good job to you and your staff accomplishing and facilitating all of this, despite the fact that we were shut down for a couple months and still continue to battle a global pandemic. So well done to all of you. Please pass our thanks along to your staff for their hard work.
Will do. Can I mention a couple more things real quick?
Well, please do.
Okay, I just wanted to give you a quick, there really isn't an update on the sewage treatment plant, but samples were taken over. We still haven't gotten the results. I've called over to the Peoria disposal company, and basically they're telling me their water samples are priority, and when they get water samples caught up for the day, then they start doing sludge samples. So we're still, they haven't forgot about us, but that's where we're at on that. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew we're not sitting on our hands by any means, because I want to get that done as soon as possible. So if anybody has any questions on that, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Steffa on that issue? No hands from the gallery.
Okay. Just one last thing. Kind of on a sad note. I don't know if you have all heard about the accident in Woodford County over the weekend where the 3 kids got killed. Unfortunately, the young lady that was driving that vehicle, Morgan Ryder, was an employee of ours a few years ago. Very promising future for her, and just a very, very nice young lady. So if you could keep her family and friends in your thoughts and prayers, it'd be greatly appreciated. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, and appreciate you taking a moment to share that. That's important for the committee to know that. Certainly, our well wishes and thoughts are with her family during this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stefan. All right, next item on the agenda, Mr. Doherty, facilities report. Looks like you have some items for to bring to the committee for approval today.
Yes, excuse me. Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I do. Which would you like for me to do first, the report or the contracts?
Let's go ahead and we'll get a motion and a second on, we'll go through the contracts first. We'll get a motion and a second and then give you the opportunity to talk through them and for the committee to ask questions. So would entertain a motion on item B1A, request approval of a hood cleaning agreement with Getz Industrial Cleaning. It's a motion from member Smith, second from member Thompson. Mr. Doherty, please feel free to talk through or share any details about that you'd like the committee to hear.
Okay, this is for the new jail annex, and there's one exhaust system that collects fumes off of the tray wash system and then the cooking equipment. This is a semi-annual task that we've now been in this operating this facility for close to a year now, so we need to get that going and get that all cleaned up. The second part of the Getz Industrial is the fire equipment, and that's the gas suppression system that is over the hood, the cooking hoods, to extinguish a fire if one arose. So the reason I had Getz come in, because it's a new facility. They had been used to coming in and doing the old jail kitchen just as a matter of routine, but I wanted them to have the opportunity to give us exact quotation on what it cost to do the cleaning maintenance on the new system. So any questions?
Questions for Mr. Doherty about the hood cleaning agreement? Okay, seeing none, I'd ask Ms. Morlock to please call the roll.
Excuse me. Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Johnston,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Friedrich,
Yes.
Chairman Barnett, are you voting? I apologize. Should I ask you before?
Yes, I'll vote for everything that's on the agenda, and it's a yes for me as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is B1B, request approval of an inspection agreement with Getz Fire Equipment Company. Looking for a motion from the committee for approval. Motion from member Johnston, second. Second from member Friedrich. Mr. Doherty, this is the suppression system that you just mentioned to us.
Yes, sir.
Anything else you wanted to share about this, or?
No, it's pretty much it's just a gas, inert gas that is used. You've probably all seen them. They're in a stainless steel cabinet next to a cooking hood. So they come in, they check pressures and that sort of thing, and just be sure that it's just like checking kind of a fire extinguisher. So they just do systematic annual checks on that.
Okay, any questions from the committee? All right, seeing none, I would invite Ms. Morlock to please call the roll.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Johnston,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Friedrich,
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
Yes. All right, next item on the agenda is B1C, request approval of a rental contract with Polar Leasing Company Incorporated, and would entertain a motion for that. Motion by Vice Chair Beard, second by Member Smith. All right, Mr. Doherty, can you talk us through this?
Sure can. Thank you. This is a temporary cooler for the morgue while we demo out the existing cooler and refrigeration equipment. We're going to put this right outside the Sallyport area, and they are giving us a contract here for a 2-month rental rate. I don't know that we're necessarily going to need it for 2 months, but that's their boilerplate contract. And it does require delivery on that. And then they've also got a damage deposit. So I'm ready for it. This is an electric cooler, and we're going to run a temporary line into the basement of the L&J and pick up power for this thing. And then we'll have to build like a wooden ramp to get to it. It'll probably be a few inches off the driveway. So that's about all there is to it. I had quite a bit of problem finding somebody that would rent us a cooler for this application. They all ask what it's going to be used for, and when they heard morgue, I got a lot of closed doors. So while this is somewhat pricey in my mind, this outfit has been more than liberal and easy to work with, and it's just a matter of a day to get down here and deliver it. And they, as you see in your packet, they give us all kinds of directions on how to get it going. So we'll do the wiring in-house. It's just a matter of running a 230 volt feed to it, and that's about it.
If I may,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, Mr. Doherty and Chairman Barnett, I wanted to add that I also think the placement of this is important in working with this vendor, because then the cooling unit won't be out in the parking lot. And I think that that's also an important thing for any of the families or just for the staff. I'm appreciative of Mr. Doherty working with this vendor to find that we can place it in the Sallyport. So thank you.
Yes. Any questions from the committee? Oh, Member Johnston?
How long do we anticipate this project to go on?
I would say it's probably going to be around a month to 5 weeks or so.
And if we are able to return the coolers sooner, is it going to be prorated? I'm not sure I saw that in the contract.
I don't believe so. I think it's just a minimum contract for 2 months.
Okay. And Indiana's the closest we could get?
Yeah. Well, they have a station in Chicago too. It depends on where they have the product at. One that's road ready. So no, there wasn't anything local I could find short of buying another cooler and building it on site. There really wasn't anything available as far as portability goes. And that was one of our requirements. We didn't have to go rent a semi trailer, and then you'd had elevation problems getting gurneys into it and what have you. So I think this is going to be a good short-term fix. I think the coroner has made arrangements with one of the local hospitals that has a cooler in case there's an overflow situation. This particular cooler will house 5 to 6 gurneys, I believe. And so I think we'll get by for the short term.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the effort that you made in being so detail oriented and respectful to the people that we're going to be working with as far as the families and the bodies, and trying to do your best to keep it local. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Member Friedrich?
Tim,
Yes,
question, security. I mean, doors are locked and double locked, and
bring that up. Yes, they are. They have a lock on them. The door will be facing the north. If you've ever entered the South Sallyport, I'm going to set it right up beside the east side of the existing Sallyport. There's a building column there. It will squeeze right in there. So we'll have the door facing the Sallyport, so the coroner's staff they won't be seen basically by the public when they're entering and exiting this device. The electrical supply goes on the south side of this cooler. And what I'm going to do, I've got some PVC pipe already here. We're going to lay it down the sidewalk, and then we're going to enter a clean out hole in the sidewalk that's about halfway down the south side of the L&J building and then that'll give us access to a power panel that's in an equipment room. So it should be all we see is a big white box outside and a conduit that is enclosed a rubber cable. So I think I've got everything addressed as far as public safety. I'm not just going to string a wire or two down the sidewalk. So it will be encased. It will be lockable. I don't foresee any other issues. For most of the public, they'll probably drive by it, not even notice or know what it's about, is my hope.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, would invite Ms. Morlock to call the roll.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Johnston,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Friedrich,
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
All right, Mr. Doherty, if you'd like to go ahead, keep the floor and talk us through your monthly report, that'd be great.
Thank you. We'll just start at the top. Most of these items, there hasn't been anything significant. The animal shelter is just routine maintenance items. The government center, I've been reporting we had a small hot water leak in a hydronic system, and we got a contractor in, and that piping's been repaired. It actually was replaced, so that project is finished up. We do have to get someone in to insulate the piping because all the insulation had to be tore off. So other than that, that system is back functionally and online. The health department, no issues over there, just routine items. Juvenile detention center, as you know, we bought a remanufactured compressor for the air conditioning chiller, and that was a joint effort between us and an HVAC contractor, and we have that installed and it's back up and running, so everything's good there. Law and Justice building, I've still got a couple outstanding, four outstanding elevators that I'm not sure why Kone's been a little bit delayed in getting back and getting these repairs fixed. They failed the annual inspection, and so I keep spurring them with emails. Hopefully they'll get in here soon. There hasn't been any action on the south lobby, one of the original elevators that experienced a governor and shift cable failure back in June. That quotation was shared with Administrator Rodriguez, and it's about $32,000. The new jail annex discrepancies, we've had a few contractors come and go to complete punch list items, and there's still many that are outstanding. Other than that, it's just been routine maintenance items, nothing special. Metcom and the museum have been good. I didn't want to comment on the museum. We were just notified yesterday about some breakdown, and that was due to 2 condenser fans. Mr. Coos is referring to a chiller, and I assume that's that's what he's referring to. He said there was 2 chillers out. There's actually not only 1 chiller, but possibly that connects the dot on that story. As far as I know, everything else is operational up there. There are 12 units versus 11. So I'm excited to get the report, find out what all that's about. The new jail annex, still working with Farnsworth Group regarding a few problems with the HVAC and the HVAC controls. We're still doing routine maintenance in the jail annex. And as far as personnel goes, I've got 2 openings now, so I need to get filled. Are there any questions?
Member Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I have a concern about the elevators in the Law and Justice Center. How common is it for them to fail their conveyance? I imagine you're talking about their conveyance test through the state. How common is that, and how many elevators do we have down in that building?
We have 2 down in the, well, we have 1 down in the L&J. That's the one with the broken shiv and cable. The other, the old jail visitors elevator is still functional. I'd have to pull the report to tell you exactly. It's got some widget or something that, you know, this is all discretionary and per code to the inspector that's doing this work. And that's a third-party person that goes around with Kone. And I think this year we had 2 different inspectors involved. The old jail east duplex, again, that elevator, we are still using it. It is not down. It just has some little quirky thing. If it was a safety item, the state would red tag that and shut it down. And so would Kone. Nobody's in the business to take any liability. So they're still, those 2 are still functional. The new jail, number 1 and number 3, has myself and Kone both puzzled. They initially passed the state test, inspection and all. And now I specifically remember this is about a limit switch that's on a hatch somewhere, an inspection hatch. So while the elevators are still functional and being used every day, this is one of these little minute things that I don't know if during the inspection something didn't reset or what it is, but it seems like to me that could be resolved pretty quickly. But I need to get them in the door. The interesting thing here with Kone is they're coming in to do the maintenance, and I'd sure like to get these 4 items fixed so I can apply for the state certificate and be finished with them. We are in a waiting pattern, waiting on state certificates. The application's been set for everything countywide and paid for. And so I expect with the COVID issue, the state's a little bit behind. So all certificates expired July 31st. So few of my colleagues point out to me that the certificate in the cars are expired and what's going on. So I just have to reach out and say everything's been inspected and you're riding an elevator that's safe. So
thank you for that clarification.
no problem.
Another question from the committee, Member Friedrich.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions, Tim. The first one, I don't know if you recall, several months ago, I asked you for a list of what it is that you experience daily on a daily basis that you may struggle with. Kind of made me think of what Greg Coos had to say. So I didn't want you to think that, well, if you had that list or you're working on it, just to remind you that I'd still be interested in that. The second question is, those vendors that have not performed their work entirely? Have they been paid? Do we have a lever on them? What's the issue? Why we can't get them there? I'm sure you've been working on it. I was just wondering what else we could do to get them to complete their task. That's it.
Administrator Rodriguez, would you like to take a shot at that? I can tell you.
I can start. Thank you.
All right, now I'll help you out.
If I may, Mr. Friedrich. So the first item that you mentioned, Member Friedrich, Mr. Doherty has completed that list, and he was going to attach it to his report. I'm the one that told him not to at this time because I hadn't planned for such a detailed discussion at tonight's meeting, but at the membership's liking, I could send it to the group, and you can become familiar with what your request was and what Mr. Doherty's answers were, because it was me that told him not to put it in the packet. So I apologize if that was the expectation. Regarding your second question, Member Friedrich, and I'm assuming it's about the part of Mr. Doherty's report relative to the new jail and that punch list. We've been working diligently for weeks on this, and I will say that it was Mr. Doherty bringing to me a very organized binder full of all of the items that he was concerned about. And then we convened some of the, I'll call them contractors. I'm probably not using all the right vocabulary words. We also involved even some of our legal counsel, not to be litigious, but just because I have such a small staff here, and the civil states attorneys helped us in convening meetings with all of these folks. It then turned into a very large meeting with social distancing with, at least 10 of us, Mr. Doherty, from various representative agencies involved in this work, as well as my staff, and as well as the Public Building Commission, because I want the membership here to know that the Public Building Commission keeps track of a lot of this activity, and they were interested in sitting at the table as well. So where it stands now, I was unable to be involved in every single conversation, but I know Mr. Doherty is very involved, and so are several others, in ensuring that this very lengthy, what I'll call the hopefully final punch list, has been prioritized, and we are finding that they are rectifying most of these, although I still know there's some outstanding items. So if I've forgotten anything, Mr. Doherty, please expound, and I hope I've summarized it. It's taken more work than one can realize. I'm not doing it justice, and so I appreciated Mr. Doherty bringing it to my attention.
No, I think you had a very good summary of it. I know there was just a request by PBC Legal Robert Porter this week for an update on this long list of tasks that are both design and contract, contractor related. So River City was the general contractor, and they're the one that's got tasked to update this list. So they said they'd have that by the end of the week. So hopefully we'll see that tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? All right, Mr. Doherty, thank you very much for your report and the good information.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, Administrator Rodriguez, your turn on the agenda.
Thank you, Chairman Barnett. I do have an item for action, item C1A, which is request to approve a critical hire request. And as Mr. Doherty alluded, he has a vacancy. It is for a maintenance mechanic 2 position within his department. And for obvious reasons, he has very few staff in the first place. And so we're interested in discussing your consideration of us to fill this position.
Get a motion from the committee for approval of item C1A. Motion by Member Friedrich, second by Member Johnson. Any questions or discussion from the committee for the administrator? Okay. All right. I would invite Ms. Morlock to please call the roll.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Johnston,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Friedrich,
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Motion passes. Thank you.
If I may, then I'll move on. I know that item C2A is capital improvement plan process updates. I apologize that I don't have a cover memo in your packet regarding what is on page 19. Chairman Barnett and I, as well as county administration staff, the assistant county administrators and I, we've been working together with Chairman Barnett to discuss capital improvement plans in general and how ours perhaps could be improved. It's not to say it isn't a good enough document, but I do think there's always room for improvement. And one of the things we were thinking of, and then I'll turn it over to the chairman because certainly he's been a leader in this process, but the document you have in your packet could be an example of how we encourage departments and sub-departments to bring forward their capital improvement requests, and or how we then document how once those are approved, they are tracked, trended, and completed in more of a project management way. I think one of my observations, very anecdotal, but in this first year of my employ as the county administrator, I have noticed that department heads and other employees see that capital improvement plan as not something that they interact with very much. And I would like it to feel that way because I think that it's easier for us to know and prioritize the projects, but also for them to feel interactive in the process, even when it's not an area of their expertise. So let's say you're, the director of a department, but your parking lot needs paving. You may not know anything about parking lot paving, but you should definitely be part and parcel of effectuating the completion of that project through your leadership in that role as a department head. And that's part of the incentive. But I'll actually hand it over to you, Chairman, if there are other things that you wanted to share with the committee about our process in this regard.
Sure. So as the committee knows, the capital improvement plan has been something that's been on our minds for quite a while. We started initial discussion with this back at the beginning of the year. We had our brainstorming session with the committee, and then the wheels kind of fell off society and everything shut down with COVID for a while. But we wanted to get back on track and make sure that we were trying to get some things hammered out for the 2021 budget cycle. So as Administrator Rodriguez said, we got together a few weeks ago, visited some capital improvement plans from some other local levels of government across the country, and tried to look at some of the best practices that they use, not only when it comes to the process for putting that plan together, but also the execution and tracking of it. A few things that came out of that is this document that is in front of you. Part of the discussion at that meeting was taking the very high level pages of our capital improvement plan and reformatting them to look something more like what is in front of you here, both for the benefit of the department heads who would be collecting and submitting that information into staff for prioritization, but also to this committee to have a better understanding of what these projects are and why we're doing them and how much they cost and how we're paying for them and so on. This is all still a work in progress. So if you have thoughts or suggestions, of course, would be happy to entertain all of those. Something else that was discussed at that meeting was putting together a formal sort of annual flow, if you will, for how the capital improvement plan and planning process would work. There'd be a time where the property committee would be solicited for thoughts on that early on in the year. Staff would be part of that during their normal budget process. All of those items would be taken and prioritized by staff in a draft form, brought back to property committee to be able to review and provide feedback on, and then sort of be submitted forward in the fall as part of the regular budget process to the rest of the board and executive committee. And so we're still hammering out some of that timeline, but I wanted to have some of this figured out, you know, in April, but hey, 2020, you know, what can you do? It's all right. I do think though, it's great that we're doing it now, and that we're able to regroup and refocus on this. And this probably will not be a perfect document or a perfect process as we go through the fall and into 2021, but it's the beginning of a new process for us, which I think will be of long-term benefit, not only to this committee, but to the county as a whole and the people that were elected to serve. You know, for too long, as I've mentioned before, we've been reactive with projects as they have come up and not being proactive as much as we probably could have been. And my hope is that through further refinement of the capital improvement plan and its process, that we can move more into that proactive role and provide better efficiencies for the county, more confidence from the staff and the department heads on these projects need to get done, and provide better value for all of the taxpayers in the county. So that's just to sort of give you a high-level overview of where some of these things are at. We're planning to take, we can talk about this as much as you would like right now, but I will tell you that staff is planning to take us through a bit of a deeper dive into this at our September meeting. So if you have thoughts, as I said, we can discuss them now, but we'll be taking a deeper dive into this next month. So with that said, anything at all from the committee?
Okay.
Member Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to speak generally about what you just said and how we can get more public involvement in that process. And as we head into our budgeting and capital improvement, I noticed that this meeting is not being streamed on Facebook, and however is being streamed on YouTube currently. I think there's 2 viewers. As we go into the season of spending our constituents' money on our constituents' property, I think it's important that we are in a place where most of our constituents will come to watch us and come to participate. I don't think YouTube's that space. I think Facebook's that space. So if staff or the chairman could look into returning to Facebook, I would appreciate that.
I don't really have any background knowledge on this particular subject.
I mean, I'd be happy to address it. I addressed it last night at Finance Committee, I believe. So Member Smith and to the membership. As you know, we made a decision to continue streaming the meetings at least through the end of this year. I think that we're all wise enough to know that while we're hopeful that there will be a vaccine for COVID-19 by then, I know that we have no guarantees, and we may stay in phase 4 for a significant amount of time. And with that said, county administration and the IT department suspect that we will be streaming meetings a lot longer than December, or perhaps at your urging, even if we get a vaccine. So with that said, we had some hard decisions to make, because right now, and Broadleaf heard me say this last night, and it was awkward then, and it's getting less and less awkward to say it in their presence, but it has been our intention always to try to do this ourselves. We have appreciated Broadleaf. Broadleaf always was our contractual provider streaming on YouTube. back when we were only streaming the county board meetings prior to the pandemic. At this time, we need to become more self-sufficient and find a way to do it ourselves. And there were a few reasons why I chose with IT in consultation with them to move just to the YouTube streaming. It is much easier for us and safer for us in a cybersecurity way to reduce our pathway and have one place to stream. Number two, it is one of the only ways where we are going to be able to do it ourselves without hiring out in the future the multiple platforms. And thirdly, I did do some consulting with my trusted colleagues through the Illinois County Administrators Association and as well at the town and the city, and they all stream on one platform, and that is YouTube. I do know that, you know, we've been watching the numbers of the streaming on both platforms while we were streaming in both venues, and truly this is a place and space for the public to be involved. I enjoy being able to watch the city's meetings when I can, and the towns. So I'm understanding of this, but at the end of the day, for us to follow cybersecurity, we pay a lot of liability insurance, but maybe to some not enough for cybersecurity to reduce that pathway and then to become sufficient as we look to the long term to become accessible. That was the decision that we made in this regard. So.
Member Johnson.
Thank you. I still think that, I mean, if that's the decision that you've made, I still think that we can use the Facebook platform to direct people to YouTube. You can set up like scheduled posts so that it pops up to say like, hey, the finance meeting is happening. Here's the link. You can get over to the YouTube channel to watch it there. Because I think people tend to be on Facebook a lot more than they are just kind of like browsing around YouTube. So I still think that I'd like to see us use Facebook as an opportunity to inform constituents about where they can find the information and to try to make it as easy as possible. I mean, those kind of, the scheduled posts are not terribly complicated to do, that you can kind of schedule way in advance, so.
Yep.
Member Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I would just add, if you can't tell, I do have an opinion on this topic, that if administration and IT has decided that YouTube is the space they want to be, there's no problem with that. I would just add that our presence on YouTube isn't as professional as our Facebook presence, and it's not as, I would say, official as our Facebook presence. So if that's going to be our home online, I think we need to invest in bringing it up to par to our other online presences.
Thank you.
All right, anything else with as far as capital improvement plan goes from the committee? Oh, Vice Chair Beard.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And yeah, I know that's what you were asking about with your comment, and I'm looking forward to next month's discussion. We've talked, and with the Administrator Rodriguez have talked over the last few months. So I'm excited for the direction that we're going, and I think we're all looking forward to taking a more modern approach. You know, thinking about the age of our buildings, they're getting to that age that being reactive becomes more and more detrimental. So how do we do preventative maintenance? How do we get ahead of the ball? How is that organized? It makes budgeting more predictable. It makes it easier for Mr. Doherty and for the administration. So I think that's going to be a good conversation. I'm looking forward to it. And thank you for the work that you've done over the last few months and in unpredictable and unusual circumstances, and the administration as well.
Thank you. All right, Administrator Rodriguez, I'll turn it back over to you for your employment activity report.
Thank you. I just a report to the committee, item 2C2B, it enclosed as our report. So if you have any questions on those hires, I'd be happy to answer.
Any other business or communication to come before the committee?
Chairman, I just wanted to, I'll be brief. I know we've gone long and I appreciate your time tonight because I did invite the museum to give an update. I do meet with them at least monthly to discuss a number of issues. That includes attempted congruence with some policies. They are not county employees, but when Mr. Coos was the director, or the interim director, he wanted to be in the loop on decisions we were making, even regarding COVID and personnel and all of those good things. But I wanted you to hear from them regarding some of their innovative activities. With that said, I wanted the opportunity also to update you briefly on the museum roof project. And so you should know that our contract with Charnett and Associates is going well. They are on track and in still in the design phase, but they've been working with Mr. Doherty. He's been spending extra time involved in some of the on-site meetings with assessments that have been going on. But in order to be brief, I just want you to know that the record drawing plan for the roof is complete. That is on schedule. And the next part and phase of this will be once they analyze the camera information from a telescan that was done, which was, I believe, on the pipes within the building. Then they'll be ready in the next step to be towards the RFP phase that they actually administer on our behalf. And so that's a wonderful thing for us to have them involved. And I wanted you to know that everything is on track. And if you want more details, certainly outside of this meeting, we could talk as well. Or I can try to give updates every month, just a little brief one. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda is approval of bills. Before we go into this, I'll share with the committee. It was brought up by our colleague member Woolrab at the July Finance Committee meeting that Auditor Anderson sometime last fall, I think it was September or October, stopped publishing copies of the bills on her section of the county website. There's been no explanation for that, but they're no longer published on there. We try to be a little more transparent with how we conduct our business in absence of the auditor fulfilling that responsibility. I've asked Administrator Rodriguez to start sharing the bills that we approve each month with the committee. That may be put in the packet starting in September. It may be sent separately. We're still going to work some of those things out. For those of you who either currently serve or have served on transportation in the past, this is will be a familiar thing for all of you. But just wanted to bring that up to the committee's attention. So look for that next month in September. But for the bills for this month, we have bills of a fund total that have been approved by the auditor for $1,622,588.39. And I would ask for a motion of approval from the committee for the said bills. Motion from Member Smith, second from Member Thompson. Any questions or discussion? All right, we'd invite Ms. Morlock to please call the roll.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Johnston,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Friedrich,
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
Yes,
That passes.
okay, the motion passes. With that said, that is all on the agenda for Property Committee today. Thank you all for your service to the county, and we will see you soon.